Hi, my name is Jasmine Anona, and this is my college, Wadham College. I came here last year to pursue a 9-month MST, so that's Master of Studies program in Women's Studies, after having graduated from Swarthmore College with a degree in Political Science and Education and Latin American Studies. So to give you a little bit of background about me, I'm an Egyptian Italian American, born and raised in New York and raised in Italy. I went back to the States when I was 18 to study at Swarthmore College, and in between there I lived in Cuba for a year. So postgraduates actually don't tend to live on college. So most of the postgrads live off the beaten path. So, I mean, if you're like me and don't bike, you get to see all these cool off the beaten path areas. Like I would never have come to this area if I hadn't lived, a little bit further away from the central area. So we are currently in front of Gail's Coffee Shops, one of my favorite coffee shops in the area at Jericho, which is just right next to the city center. It's a lesser known area, but definitely one to check out if you're a student here. It's got a lot of really niche shops, like the Cheese Company down there, which has the best local cheeses. And you can pick up some fresh bread from Gail's, and it's a perfect sandwich, and take it to Port Meadow and have a picnic with your friends. We're currently in the MCR of Wadham College. It's a space for fourth-year undergraduates and postgraduates. I find this space an incredibly useful one because it is incredibly varied. It's got a library, a kitchen. I come here to breathe, but I also come here to work. I come here to socialize, to eat. It's a very varied spot. There's even a media room. So on Friday nights we have bar nights here. It's an incredibly popular activity because many of the drinks are actually subsidized. So going out in Oxford can be quite expensive. So having this kind of space to socialize, you can bring friends. I mean, if you're a postgraduate, it's free. You can bring groups of people and do board games, host a movie night. You can still work in the library. The library is open 24/7 here. I actually use it as, I would say, as a transitory space and a workspace. Transitory in that I sometimes just come here for a quick bite because I can use the kitchen. I live quite far from here, about 20-minute walk. So for me, it's really convenient having a central area that feels really like home. So it's a space also of just gathering. I mean, there's not that many spots at Oxford where postgraduates sort of from all different backgrounds and fields of studies unite and gather and socialize. So this is a really fundamental epicenter of social life in that it allows me really to meet people from my college, which I might not have otherwise met. So this is an exhibit I hosted a few days ago entitled Beyond a Bookshop, exploring the historic legacy of Italy's first feminist bookshop. So a few months ago I wrote a paper about Italy's first feminist bookshop that was founded in 1975. I was having a conversation with a few students from the robotics and mathematics departments through the Italian Society. And during that time, we were talking about our research, and they were asking me what I was doing research on. And both of them were Italian students, but when I started explaining my research on an Italian feminist bookshop, they really didn't understand why the topic really mattered in shaping intellectual history in Italy's intellectual history. I started realizing that that question really mattered, and that why should we care about a feminist bookshop was a really fundamental one, which I sought to explore through this exhibit. As part of the exhibit, I brought in 2 of the founders of the bookshop and flew them in from Italy, and thanks to the financial support also of my college and my committee, and honestly I would say just the support, the emotional and literal support of so many people in my community that helped me bring it all together. And we organized a panel discussion together with the founders and another professor from medieval and modern languages who specializes in the topic. I mean, that's sort of what I love doing is, you know, helping people realize why certain marginalized histories matter, and finding those niche topics and using really cool case studies like this feminist bookshop to really make the topic accessible. So the first part of the course consists of feminist theory lectures, feminist theory seminars, and an options class. So the feminist theory lectures are sort of traditional style where we get guest speakers to come in to talk about topics like feminist theory, interpretations of post-colonial literature, to Simone de Beauvoir and analyzing some of her fundamental texts. And then you also have feminist theory seminars where we actually discuss the topics from the lectures. And then you have a third component, which are the methodology classes, and that's what is feminist methodology and what does it mean to engage in feminist methodology. And then finally, you also have an options class, which can really range from anything from the theater to literature to politics. I chose a course on women's intellectual history that looked at the UK, and I actually got to personalize it. I was interested in women's intellectual history in Italy, and that was a really small class with only 2 other, my options class was a really small class with only 2 other students and a professor, and that was based here in Wadham. And that was honestly an incredible experience, really delved deep into readings in a really personal way. And then the second part of the course consists of just an options class. So you sort of leave behind the building blocks of the feminist theory methodology and lectures, and you sort of just enter into more of an independent realm where you have you only go to class, you know, formally once a week, and that's a class that you get to pick. Again, it's another options course, and I picked one that was based in the International Development Studies Center, and it was a course called Gender and Development Studies, which was co-taught by 2 professors, one based in the International Gender Studies Center and the other was an economist, and they co-taught a class of a cohort of around 10 people. And then finally, in the last part of the course, you're sort of given free rein to work on your dissertation, and you have the free time to also engage in a lot of extracurriculars if you like, which I definitely took advantage of. I participated in a lot of volunteer work. Like, for example, in March I was a part of the International Women's Festival at Oxford City Hall and did a lot of marketing work for them, and sort of really trying to interweave my academic life with my social life. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe.